What I had
Hey.
made I had made the premiere for it
Okay.
on all of the stuff. So we on Facebook again, we on
Hmm.
YouTube again, and we on Twitch like always.
There it
So
is.
so yeah.
There it is. There it is. Hey, hello, hello, hello. Good day, good life. July 9th, 2017. I, myself, along with JR Bang, decided that we would put our wrestling thoughts, opinions, puns, and passions into a show. And when we did that, we made no clear expectations. We just knew that we were going to talk about wrestling, and we were going to talk about wrestling the way that we like to talk about wrestling. And because we are black men that like wrestling, and if there was one thing that we could definitely agree on, we knew that Brian Simmons was a good turning point for both of our wrestling lives. And that's why we titled this show The First Black Champ Podcast. And, I'm Cam from the Port.
And I'm JR Bay. Make sure you subscribe, download wherever you get your favorite podcast. Barber's Chair Digital is the home. So y'all make sure y'all subscribe there. And make sure y'all get that merch. Camp got on the chocolate. I got my red coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting ready for SummerSlam. So I gotta have my first Black Champ merch on while we out there for SummerSlam. So I got my red coming tomorrow, my yellow coming on Wednesday. So y'all make sure y'all go ahead and get that merch. And I like to salute my partner, Cam from the Port, because this was his idea. Like, make no mistake, this was his idea. All right. And he asked me because he knows my love for wrestling and his love for wrestling are match, except when we're playing SmackDown. Except when we playing SmackDown.
He won't let it die, man. He won't let it die.
I will never let it die. All right. Beat this nigga with a wrestler with makeup on.
Yeah, man. Makeup and just a random submission maneuver.
That's it. But I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in for the past 5 years. I don't know if it's been a black wrestling podcast for 5 years that's been going the way that we've been going. Right. We did this independently for the last couple of years. We did it with Barber's Chair Digital. So shouts out to the gang there. When we started this, we were at different points of our lives.
Yeah, man.
And now we are definitely, especially with me, because I have skeeted all through the length of this podcast. So when we first did the podcast, I definitely remember us being at, like you being at the studio, at the Logic studio, and having to call in to me, and then we was doing it, and people would listen to it, and the audio stuff and everything. You know, you will hear Trey in the background and on certain cases and shit, because I'll be watching him at the same time doing it. Now you hear Landon and Liam in the background from time to time.
Yeah, man.
Shouts out to Big Med for showing us clean feed.
Yeah.
Then
hey, you know what? Let's rewind back a little bit. I want us to, this is our show, and we're gonna do what we do. Shout to B Dot. He just tuned in, checked in from a YouTube. Hey, I had a lot of ideas in 2017, right? Hey, and this was the longest running idea. All right.
Yes.
And we'll just leave it at that. But what I do want to say though is, one, shout to DJ Epidemic, Logic Studio.
Yeah.
Because that is the home of the very first episode of the First Black Champ podcast. We already had the idea. I was 2017, man. Hell, I was struggling. I was struggling super hard. Like I was like mildly gainfully employed. Like I had like 3 part-time jobs at that time. I thought I was going to end up working for Live Nation full-time. And hey, I got in the pandemic, had other plans. My daughter was only 6. No, she's about to turn 6. So she was technically 5 when we started the show. And now she's about to be 12. That's crazy. shoot, I was in Illinois, and then you were in DC. Well,
Yeah.
you were on the way to DC.
No, I was there. I was
Yeah, I'm
there.
sorry, because you were in town
Yeah,
for.
we'll get to my struggling part when you're done, because that time, oh shit.
Right. So so very rarely, I don't think we've done 10 episodes of the First Black Champ podcast with us being in the same city, in the same state.
No, we haven't done 5, fam. Because I had to come. We did like 2. We did 2 at Logic, 2 or 3.
True.
So we've not even done 5 with us being in the same room. Fuck 10, man. 5.
And then and for quite a while, episode 1 was the best audio we had. Because between trying to feed you in through the board, making sure connections was right, working off of a smartphone to try to record the show. We've been in 2 different states, then 2 different times. There was a lot that just went into the actual recording process of the show, and we kept going even though we were unsatisfied with just the aesthetics of it. And the one thing that we definitely did know was that we got something here, because even with the sound not being where we wanted it to be, we were still getting feedback, still getting information, still getting hey, you know what? That shit was kind of funny. Or hey, yo, that was good. Or yo, I never knew Hogan was a heel the whole time. Bang is fucking right.
I think that was the first. Hogan been a heel was probably the Ray J moment for First Black Champ.
Word.
Because I don't think people even realize like how much Hogan was a heel. And then watching The Boys is a show on Amazon called The Boys. Like Hogan is Homelander. Just throwing that out there. And then you realize like years later that he don't like niggas like that. So that made it even better. So
yeah. And so then we go through the whole process, like Bang was saying. Ahmed showed us clean feed, and that became the new standard of audio quality, which, hey, was still really good. We went on clean feed for about 1.5 years, 2 years, maybe even a little bit longer. And then of course, Bang already having a relationship with the good people over at Barber's Chair Digital. Excuse me. They ended up wanting to pick up our show. And you know what? Hey, and listen, creators, podcasters, whatever. And I'm saying this even as I have no idea how discouraged I get about shit just in general, like behind the scenes, right? And we were at an interesting crossroad, because obviously we were inspired by a lot of what Loudspeaker Network had done. Rest in peace, Combat Jack. Even though the network still thrives and is alive, but it doesn't seem to be as connected to hip hop culture as it used to be, as far as just the promotion, the content, the people. And that's I'm just saying that to say we were running independently, as Bang said, and then there was opportunity to hop on the Team Barber's Chair, and it was kind of a no-brainer for us. And I'll say it publicly, if nobody else was, they were just doing better numbers than us. And I was like, well, shit, even though I think our show is the greatest in the world, I think we got the greatest wrestling show, period. I was like, and now we got the sound right, we're going to start kicking ass. I was like, but there is this thing where we got to, people got to hear the show. Like, we want to compete. We want to be in the midst of other good, greater wrestling shows, to be like, hey, listen to our joint too. And so man, and since then, man, the relationship has been great. We our show hasn't really changed from any outside influences or direction or changes, even though we're always open to everything that we have. So it's been great to work with those gentlemen and still keep our show and grow the audience every single year. And of course now, with podcasts being what it is, now it's the video element. See, y'all watching us live on streaming, y'all watching us on the videos we got on YouTube, on the What Digital channel, you know what I mean? And we got the audio that's up on the Barber's Chair joint. So, you know, we've done nothing but keep our head down and make ourselves more visible. I have been just very happy to see an idea that, yeah, I definitely brought to the table. But the only person I was ever going to do this show was with Bang. I had no plan B. If he didn't want to do the show, I probably was either going to do it by myself for a few weeks and stop, or I wasn't going to do it at all. Like, that's just how I was probably going to go, man. I'm just being honest with y'all. So, so thank you, Bang, for wanting to do the show and to keep doing the show, because obviously I had my own set of challenges the last 5 years, and so now it's the perfect segue to get into all of your challenges over the last 5 years of us doing this show.
Man, look, if y'all heard this podcast, y'all been listening to this podcast since day one. I went from 1 kid to 3 kids. I've been married the whole entire time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I've been married the whole entire time. Yeah, and I know, right, you've been married half of the time.
Literally half the time. I barely made it to 3 years. I'm just, hey, transparency here. Barely made it to 3 years.
So
this is all my fault.
So,
all my fault.
We've all thought I've definitely thanked Cam and always, but since my wife is getting ready to depart, you know what I'm saying, to go see her girl, I like to thank my wife for allowing me to do First Black Champ every morning. So, wife, I thank you. Did you hear me, wife? Wife? Oh, she said she heard me. I got the headphones on.
There it is. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, I wouldn't hear. So I'm sorry. I got the headphones on. You gotta, But yeah, I went from 1 kid to 3 kids, and then Trey at that time when we started in 2015, he was barely about to be 3. So we got that going on.
Yeah, man.
And we were at that point in 2015, family life was straight. Work and creative life was Huff with a capital Huff. 2016, we had moved to the DMV area. 2017 was a struggle and a half. I didn't even think I was going to make it out. At that time, it was so much stuff going on. And because it was so much stuff going on, I couldn't get my creative stuff out. So Cam calling me to say, hey, let's do this podcast was a godsend, because if I don't do that, honestly, if I don't start doing this, I don't know what I'm doing, because I didn't have an outlet to get things out. So First Black Champ enabled me, to now at that time, like really start thinking and developing things. And I was tinkering with stuff too. Like, and it's funny because it happened again. But Camp always got mad when people steal shit.
Yeah.
It happened again, just to let you know.
Word.
Yeah, it was funny, but I was like,
I'm
whatever.
not spicy.
It was but with that being said, like, I would do stuff. I was doing the thoughts. Like, if it turns out that the first thoughts that I did, shouts out to Ryan, he had shared it the other day, and I was like, damn, it was like 2016.
Oh, wow.
That I started doing a video version of the thoughts, because I had did it in St. Louis. And then people start like stealing it, doing their own. It's only really one person who did it that I respected. So shouts out to Jay Hollins, because he did it, but he did it in his own way. Like, people were literally doing it like me. It was like,
and using synonyms for thoughts.
Synonyms, like,
you
for real.
Uncreative fucks you.
Right. So, but at the same time, I knew I was doing something right. I just couldn't stay consistent in doing certain shit. This is the most consistent piece of content that I have done in my life. And it is enabled to us to reach people that we never thought we'd reach, and reconnect with other people who love wrestling. And I've said some of this every year, but I'm going to use the 5th year anniversary, the Finn, to say that it is great to see people reconnect with wrestling.
Yeah.
good or bad. Like I make fun of my man Dre, cat that I went to high school with because of his love for AEW. You know what I'm saying? But even Dre will tell you in high school, like if we at the table talking about wrestling, I'm at the lead of the table. So this is something that I've loved. But hearing him talk about that and seeing him on the First Black Champ Facebook page and group show his kids and his love of wrestling being passed down to them, giving them belts and all of that stuff, that's dope. Seeing some of the homies rekindle their love for wrestling. Even who the fuck is this? I even love them because then we get to explain that shit. And I'll shout out B-Dot especially because every time he listens to the podcast on Twitter, he says something to wrestle but niggas.
Right.
And I was listening to something to wrestle with. And then we started doing the pod. And what I used to love and what I still love when I get to listen to it about something to wrestle with, as you see Liam, Landon grab some shit behind me, is they used to explain it from an insider point of view. We talk about this sport that we love just like we would if me and Camp went to the same high school at Prosser or at Freeport. So if he was a Falcon or if he was a pretzel, if I was a pretzel, because I'm still laughing at the pretzel shit. Like,
of course, hey,
y'all couldn't get an animal. USA. Y'all couldn't get an animal.
No, not at all.
But like how we like how we would talk about that. And shouts out to my little homie Brando, who's back on the fold with us. You know, he just said, you know, would that make you or Camp Conrad dope? No, we're not. No.
Well, based on the format.
Based on the format, we're not. But
if there was a Conrad of this show, it'd be me.
Yeah.
It'd be me.
And I would be Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah, for sure.
But right, you know, sometimes, you know.
and you look, hey, listen. And really the only thing separating me from Conrad is I ain't banging one of Ric Flair's daughters.
That's true. So, and see, look at you got Liam. Hey, Liam. Me and Landon. See, when we used to do the podcast, that used to be Trey doing that.
Yeah, man.
And then now you hear Trey. Come here, Trey. Now you hear Trey because he know I'm doing the pod. So come over here. Come on.
I mean, Trey's probably going to be one of the third guests on the show. You know
yeah, because when we were doing the podcast, like I said, Trey was just going on 3, and now he'll be 8 next month. So as you see, and he likes wrestling. Who's your favorite wrestler?
I have a favorite wrestler.
Okay, name him.
Okay, I got Jay, Uso, Jimmy, and AJ Styles, John Cena.
What?
John Cena?
Yeah. We had this conversation.
Yeah, I'm my favorite wrestler, John Cena. I think I haven't told you that.
Hey, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley.
He loved. Wait a minute. I forgot who it was. I forgot who it was, but he was damn near crying when they lost. It was on AEW. I think it was I forgot. I think it was Orange Cassidy or something.
I would say, was it Orange?
I think it was Orange, but he was like real upset and pissed. And it's great to see Trey get mad when like his favorite wrestler wins or loses.
Man, hey, but you know what? I want to shout to not only Trey, but the whole state of wrestling. Look how he legitimately led to a black or a person of color wrestling.
Yes.
Like the Samoans look way cooler now in his era of wrestling than they did when we was wrestling.
And close the door.
Even though I was still a fan of the Head Shrinkers.
Yeah. Oh, we grew up in an era where our Samoan wrestlers were savages for real. Like they ate coconuts or got hit with a coconut. One of the other
teeth,
bones,
like necklaces.
No boots. Now our Samoans wear boots except for Solo Siaka, which is their brother. But yeah, that's the other part of this podcast too, being podcasters of color.
Yeah, man.
And growing up in a time where like you know it was Ron Simmons, or Coco Beware, and stuff, and we're gonna actually get to the lack of in a certain area a little bit later. But shouts out to the big homie Jonathan Hood. And I'm going to shout him out from a wrestling standpoint, put him over because one, he's like the godfather of wrestling for us, you know, when it comes to, you know, blacks and wrestling, he's like the godfather for us. And shouts out to the Good Karma the Good Karma Wrestling podcast as well. But as far as like him coming on and telling us about the history of and giving us information that we wouldn't have known because we didn't grow up in that era. He told me that this was the best era of wrestlers with like people of color of wrestling ever. And to hear Trey basically name off his first two favorite wrestlers as being the Usos.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened in our day. Because if you would have asked me that question, I'd be like, man, Ric Flair, Macho Man, and the Ultimate Warrior, Vader. It probably been about 10, 15 wrestlers before we said black man, like, or a person of color. So that's why I also love doing this podcast.
Little Ice Train drop, you know what I mean? Yeah. No, Butch Reed was still around. Butch Reed was around.
Yeah, Butch Reed. Yeah, hell yeah.
I would have eventually got the Butch Reed, but it would have been like, Hogan, Rick Rude, Macho Man.
So it's that's probably the biggest is learning about more wrestlers of color back in the day. Shouts out to Jonathan Hood. Yeah, and seeing and in this period of time, seeing Kofi Kingston win the world championship and having a podcast on that. Seeing the Street Profits succeed, and we're gonna talk about that. Seeing Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks main event WrestleMania. Yeah. Seeing the birth of Bianca Belair. I said on this podcast that she was the future. Like a lot of shit. Okay, here's the talking shit part.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's a lot of shit that's been said on this podcast that was said first on this podcast months and years before it happened.
Yep.
I told y'all, check the archives, that Bianca Belair was the future of wrestling. Yeah. Look what happened. Kofi Mania talking about that. But we've also told y'all about like shit that we hoped that was going to happen and it didn't happen too, because I have to say this take real quick. I said Velveteen Dream and Ricochet.
But hey, now Ricochet, okay. But Velveteen Dream was though. I want you, and see the thing is, I want you to frame that Bianca Belair statement correctly. Because you said that Bianca Belair would be the future before she got a chance to wrestle for the NXT Women's Championship and lose. Like it was way before.
Oh, that. I said that shit when they was doing the vignettes, fam. When they was in the trainings, and they performance center, and they said she got signed, and they start showing video, and I was like, ooh,
yeah,
think we got the future here.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, Velveteen Dream, man. Look, that was going to happen, but he jagged himself,
literally.
And, for girls that he should not be jagging himself too. Yeah. And the thing is, it's done and over for him because he's not even in AEW yet.
He's not even. I don't even think he's wrestling independently. He might got a regular job.
Like I was like, yo, if it's meant to be, he can save AEW. I've been waiting to hold on to that card for like while everybody's talking about Bray Wyatt and like Braun Strowman and with Sasha Banks. Like in my mind, I've been like, well, Velveteen Dream still needs to wrestle somewhere, right? Do we believe it? Do we not believe it? Is it true? Is it false? To me, it looks like it's 1,000,000,000% factual, and we just will never see homie again.
Nah, he's got a regular job.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's not your fault. Ricochet, I think, I mean, again, if he just sold better and was authentically black, things might be working better for homie. But listen, look, y'all want a bad take? I'll give y'all a bad take. I probably have the worst take of this show. And I think I started off within the first 5 episodes. One of my guarantees when we first started the show in 2017 was that Big Cass versus Baron Corbin would be the main event of WrestleMania 40. And I don't know. And I was like, I don't know which world title is gonna be. but it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be the Universal or the WWE Championship, but the main event for WrestleMania 40 was gonna be Baron Corbin versus Big Cass. Again, I can't determine what Big White Boy is gonna do with their life, but but Baron Corbin's still around, and you know, at one time, Baron Corbin did become the hottest heel in the company.
Yeah.
So it was there, but shit, Big Cass was like, "No, I'm gonna drink and threaten Carmella life, and things are just gonna turn." So, you know, sorry, what can I do?
Right. There's still takes I stand on too. That should happen. Like I stand on it and I'm probably the only person in Black Wrestling Twitter that was like campaigning for this. But I still stand on Big E should have turned on. I mean, not Big E, but Kofi should have turned heel. And turned on Big E to help make Big E the biggest heel in the company. And have an emotional feud. Xavier Woods, go with Kofi too. And have an emotional feud that puts Big E over. I think part of the issue with Big E, even his championship Big E, is that he didn't have that emotional thing to put him over. And what's funny is we didn't want that to happen to Big E, but then you go through wrestling Twitter and the Street Profits need to break up.
Yeah.
So
wow.
it's like,
madness.
Why they got to do it, but they can't? You know what I'm saying? How come Angelo Dawkins just can't be Mr. Hughes and Montez Ford be Lex Luger? Like, how come that can't happen? Like, nah, y'all want them to break up because y'all want Montez Ford to be the biggest star in the WWE. And I'm going to salute Angelo Dawkins a little bit later in this show.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I'm just thankful for this, and I've said this before. Without First Black Champ, there's no Some Dude. Without First Black Champ, there's not a lot of content that I put out because again, this was the show that became the incubator to help me get out of the funk that I was in 2017. So I always thank you for that.
Yeah, man. Thank you, and thank you. I appreciate that. You're welcome. If that was what I was supposed to say in that moment, but thank you for just again sticking the show out. I mean, obviously, hell, we've known each other since 2004, like fall 2004, I think, and so we're no strangers to working together through adversity of all types, So for this to be the last new idea from us that went the furthest, it's been a pleasure, man. Because hey, look, if y'all check the What archives specifically, y'all will find more content from Bang and myself just doing other shit. You know what I'm saying? Like songs white people love and all kinds of things, like things that were just genuinely authentic to us. You know, in Elite TV, in Elite Radio. All of those things. And who knew the black guys talking about wrestling would be the thing that lasted the longest?
Actually, when you think about it, yeah, like no, and I say that because this is the least pressure.
Yeah, true.
Like things that we love sports, specifically wrestling and music. Yeah. But our music tastes are so similar and our takes are so similar. We can't do a podcast about music. Like, we be all in the podcast, like, except for Jay-Z versus Nas, which I've apologized for.
Yeah,
I've apologized for. We be like, Mobb Deep is one of the top 5 greatest groups of all time. We be like, I know.
Yeah, right. I'm like, hey, the infamous.
Right,
number 2.
Right. It'd be similar takes. Nobody want to hear that. And even sometimes our takes here are similar, but this is not a show about takes.
Yeah.
This is a show around a conversation around wrestling. And some of the takes be different, but it's a conversation that we know and we love.
Yeah.
So so I thank you for that. And now we get on to the show.
Wait, no. Hold on. Go ahead.
Go ahead. My bad.
We 5 years. First Black Champ.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
What's next? Not necessarily solutions, but where's the next level? Because, hey, look, this month, First Black Champ will show up in First Black Champ merch, and we will be at a premium live event.
I mean, I think next for us is, I'll say us and me personally. Next for us is going to some of these events and showing up to some of these events too. Like WrestleMania is on the list. We're going to SummerSlam in 2.5 weeks. So we got that. I'll say just for improvement, we have to do better with the content and stuff. As Brando would know, it's a lot that goes on, with work that impedes in that, but you have your stuff too. So, I mean, the whole having a team of people would be great, but we know where we at in life, but we do have to get consistent and doing stuff outside, creating content outside of what we doing the show. Meetups as well. Like when we go to these joints, we want to meet up with the people, what I'm saying? We want to, because you'll be surprised who listens to what and listens to who. So we gonna mess around and go to SummerSlam and have a First Black Champ shirt on, and somebody's might be like, "Oh shit, that's y'all." So that too. So we got that too. So really, the next steps for us in general is just really just getting out more content and getting to some of these events. Now, for me personally, it's just really expanding the brand on to other things that I do personally. Like, I am, for those who don't know what I do, I am the managing editor for Black America Web, the home of the Tom Joyner Morning Show. So if you grew up listening to Tom Joyner Morning Show here, wake up every morning and say, go check this out at blackamericaweb.com. So, that's the site that I'm the managing editor of. And shouts out to Brando for helping create content that goes on there too, because Black America Web is seeing some of its best numbers in a while. So shouts out to me on that. Bang.
Word.
Now,
absolutely.
With that being said, I want to and this is something that we have all talked about on our team as a collective, is getting back to the splight. To creating content around sports. Like, you remember that I had went and got press passes to Bellator. And that's why I met Bobby Lashley for the first time, and everything too. So being able to take some of our content and put it on there, because again, you don't realize how many people love wrestling until you put the stuff out there. Because I've said it many times on this podcast how I'm mad at women, because now they talking about how they love wrestling all their life, but in high school they was trying to be funny. And like I said, I could have been playing with your nipples and watching Raw at the same time, and we would have been both been happy. So being able, right, you know what I'm saying? So being able to take some of our content and put it there. When WrestleMania happened and Bianca Belair came out with I think it was Texas Southern marching band and everything, I made sure that content was up, you know what I'm saying? And it did very well. So I want to make sure that on my end, I am putting some of our content that might be relevant, because some of it might be relevant today when we talk about, up on there, so it could get more eyes and ears, not only just for us, but Barbershop Digital as well.
For sure. You know what? And what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna give out some of the things that I want to do. And I'm taking my first step, which is creating the content while creating the content. So I got my phone up and I'm recording this, as well as
I was about to say, you got a list or you recording some shit?
Yeah. Well, I do got a list. So for First Black Champ, we're 5 years in. 5 years in the First Black Champ. So for this year, going into year 6, I want to make sure that even if we don't get into the actual stadium for WrestleMania, that we go to Wale Mania. I want us to interview Black wrestlers, whether they're superstars or independent or on the come up. Whatever you're doing, we want you on the show, First Black Champ Podcast. And I think we need to have more podcast collaborations with the other men and women that also happen to be Black or just happen to love wrestling and have been watching it as long as we have. I think that's important. So those are the 3 things, along with creating more content, which I have now just taken the first step in doing that. So yeah, man, year 5 into 6, let's do some more amazing things. I should say we already doing some amazing things. We can do some more amazing things though.
Oh yeah, of course. Like and shouts out to wrestling podcasters in general, especially the Black ones. Shouts out to y'all. Listen, a lot of y'all out there. Pierce, shouts out to Pierce for putting our podcast up and making sure that to get the social out. I want to say this because I do this for us. I mean, at my regular job. So I know what Pierce has to do. So I specifically want to make sure that I thank Pierce because once that joint is uploaded, he putting it up, he retweeting it and everything, and he has his own podcast, Ruthless Aggression's own wrestling podcast. So shouts out to you, and shouts out to all of the other wrestling podcasters that's out there. It is too many to name, but that don't mean that we don't know who you are. That don't mean that we're not paying attention. And we invite y'all to be on First Black Champ too, and we would love to join you on yours as well to help make sure that this wrestling podcast ecosystem and Black wrestling in general is a good ecosystem, and we get some great content out. Now, speaking of, we start with Vince McMahon first.
Yeah, man. Hard to not start without that. Oh boy, how the AEW stands, the WCW lovers, and just people that just hate the last name McMahon are rejoicing,
man,
from the news that has happened over the last few days. Or actually, no, last few weeks now. Yeah, because we down in the middle of July.
Vince McMahon is definitely in hold my beer mode, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, man.
The Wall Street Journal released the article a couple of days ago, and Vince McMahon is wild out here in these streets, man. He's reportedly paid up to $12 million to 4 women in hush money, and that's added to the believe $3 million that he paid another shorty in hush money. This one right here gets wilder though, and it involves a wrestler, which people were wondering, have always wondered, especially with Vince McMahon and some of the storylines that's been in the career of Mr. McMahon, the character. I'm going to read one of the lines, or just really the line that need to be read from the Wall Street Journal. Vince McMahon had a $7.5 million pact with a former wrestler who alleged that Mr. McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex and then demoted her, and ultimately declined to renew her contract in 2005 after she resisted further sexual encounters. According to people familiar with the matter, the wrestler and her attorney approached Mr. McMahon in 2018 and negotiated the payment in return for her silence. Let's start with that.
I was gonna say. Yeah, maybe my comment is for later. Go ahead.
Okay. It was also a Netflix doc. You know, everybody says that everybody says that this was supposed to be Vince McMahon's Last Dance documentary. Like now everybody has to have like a Last Dance type of documentary. Tom Brady has his. Derek Jeter's is coming up. Of course, the Chicago Bulls / Michael Jordan. So this was supposed to be Vince McMahon's. Reportedly, Netflix is pulled out of that documentary, which is in post-production, and millions of dollars have already been spilled out. So it looks like some people are getting out of the Vince McMahon business. So I ask you, is it time for Vince McMahon to get out of, technically, the Vince McMahon business? Because the WWE is Vince McMahon business. Yeah. He has the most shares within the company. So if you buy him out, you essentially buy the company.
Yeah.
So and I think that's important here. Like people just gotta go. Like Vince gotta go means Vince really has to get Donald Sterling out of here. Right. So Vince, and I really want to make this listen. I want people to listen when they say this. Because Donald Sterling got about $2 billion to leave. Vince McMahon to fuck around and get more than $2 billion to leave. Yeah. The way that company is built. So, is it time for Vince McMahon to get out of the Vince McMahon business?
You know, based on the sensitivity of the world today, yes. Okay. Because demoting the girl because the head trash is crazy, right? Like, that's crazy. You can't do that. It's like, yo, you already wouldn't even supposed to be on that type of time. He's like, man, that wouldn't even fire how I usually, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
But I'm down to
give
give you another
up,
shot.
so.
But I'm down to give you another shot.
Right. He's like, maybe you can work your way back up to the ladder. But so that's crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? Demoting the girl because her head ain't fire is crazy. But at the same time, you are now becoming counterproductive to everything your daughter did as the chief brand officer.
Man.
so you gotta go. So you gotta go. You gotta go because, you know, say, I know the reports are, you know, in the building, people don't really mess with Steph like that, but you can never discount everything that Steph has done over the past 5 years in an effort to make wrestling not only more women friendly, but minority friendly, more evolved, and just in a greater state of, hey, wrestling truly is all inclusive. We know it was this heavily racially charged redneck sport at one time, but it ain't that no more. And whenever or if ever any documentaries come out, there needs to be a 15-minute segment on just what Stephanie McMahon has done in an effort to make wrestling more inclusive than it ever has been. So under that respect, Vince got to roll out. He got to roll out.
So I'm going to talk to something bigger here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't think people realize this, but the Wall Street Journal did, and I'm going to put up Brando's comment on as we record on YouTube, where basically the Wall Street Journal kind of framed this article as if Vince McMahon goes, so goes the WWE, because that's how the WWE frames it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read this right here. From the Wall Street Journal article. It says WWE describes Mr. McMahon as critical to the success of the company, which runs the world's most famous wrestling business and reported record revenue of $1.1 billion last year. WWE said in its regulatory filings that losing Mr. McMahon would put its entire business at risk. Pause. I'm gonna talk this like a reverend with the young lady reading the Bible here.
Mm-hmm.
That last sentence. Losing McMahon would put his entire business at risk. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about how people continue running the business and they don't create an heir apparent. They just want to run the business. Then if I die, whatever happens, happens. If I retire, whatever happens, happens. But they don't necessarily put an heir apparent. We have always assumed that Stephanie or Shane would take over the company when Vince McMahon go. But mind you, Vince McMahon is 76 years old, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And Vince McMahon has wanted to do other stuff outside of wrestling, i.e. the XFL, which were all perfect times for him to just move on from the WWE, do his own thing, and have somebody take over the company. And then you have Nick Khan that comes in, and everybody assumes, oh, well, he's doing all this, or maybe it's Nick Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, this proves that there is no such thing as an heir apparent in the WWE. Because if you put out a sentence out there, and the WWE says that, losing Mr. McMahon will put the entire business at risk, that means that there's nobody to take over the company. Vince McMahon don't see nobody to take over the company. Let me read something else to y'all too. Vince McMahon owns a majority share of WWE's Class B shares, giving him the bulk of the shareholders' voting power, securities filing show. The Class B shares have 10 times the voting power of Class A shares available to regular investors and are owned exclusively by Mr. McMahon, his family, and trust benefiting individual family members, the filing show. The bar is going to be reasonably high to wrestle the business away from family control. according to Brandon Ross, a research analyst at Lightshed Partners who follows WWE. But he added that any outcome that would strip Mr. McMahon's creative responsibilities would materially change the company. Look, basically, I'm going to fire the first warning shot to everybody. As the WWE goes, so does wrestling. I want y'all to understand specifically that. How the WWE goes, so goes wrestling. I think we as wrestling fans don't really understand that. But for the last, let's say 40 years, because I'm 40. Let's say for the last 40 years, the WWE has been in control or at the top of the food chain for wrestling. You literally have to have a company that's ready to take control of the situation in order for it to continue as such. And what I mean, it continue the ecosystem, which is the business of wrestling. If you let's look at science here. If there's anything major that messes up the ecosystem, what normally happens to said ecosystem, Camp? It dies.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You fuck with the ecosystem dies.
Yeah.
Or it breaks up and it scatters. And from there, it still dies, but it may be remnants here, it may be remnants there. If we lose the sun, Camp, we all die.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
let's even put it to that point.
And white people get super pale and die.
Right. So what I'm telling y'all is this. Let's be careful about what we want, because honestly, it's the situation that we're in. If that company goes, the ecosystem of wrestling goes. Yeah. Because you have to understand that while we love this sport, a lot of people consider this shit campy, circusy, and they really don't want to deal with it. It's just that, and I said this on prior episodes of First Black Champ, the WWE is Disney to wrestling. The WWE is not ESPN. It's Disney to wrestling. Because a lot of the wrestlers that you get at other companies, go look at AEW, come from where?
WWE.
They become big names where?
WWE.
Without that, they don't become the big names because AEW is barely doing $1 million in some cases.
Right.
And on Dynamite and on Rampage, they barely doing 500,000 in some cases.
And so they're number 2.
And they're number 2. So what I'm telling y'all is that be careful of what you wish for.
Yeah.
You just might get it.
Yeah.
And then when you get it, wrestling is going to go away from doing shows at big stadiums to taking their ass back to the UIC Pavilion.
Yeah, man.
This is not me caping for Vince McMahon. This is me understanding the ecosystem of wrestling and how they are at the top of the food chain. But if you are at the top of the food chain and you go, you might think for the little people, oh man, that's great. But then who's going to be there to make sure that the bees is pollinating the flowers?
Yeah, man.
Who's going to make sure that the snails are eating what they need to eat to make sure that bacteria goes away and all of that shit? Like, just go to science class and understand what we're talking about with ecosystem here. And if the WWE goes, how everything else is just going to fuck up. It's not going to be, that one company rise. Because if the NFL goes away, none of you motherfuckers is going to be like, yo, well, shit, that USWA, that USFL, shit, that XFL, The Rock owns it.
Right.
You're not going to all of a sudden be like, matter of fact, I'll even give you something better. A lot of black people was mad as hell about Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, and them same black people who love football was like, but was like, hey, I don't really mess with the NFL. They wasn't watching the XFL because you know what they were saying? Oh man, these football players is terrible. They wasn't even good enough to make it to the NFL, and now I got to watch them because Colin Kaepernick can't get a job there. Yes, but you didn't do that.
Right.
So that's one part of this.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'm not saying that Vince McMahon should stay. I think that the reason why I started my argument off with heir apparent, it's been apparent that Vince McMahon should have had an heir apparent so he could chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
You can still have power within company and then just give the power to somebody else and be an advisor or something.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon never, I don't believe Vince McMahon believes that he can run this company, that somebody else can run this company. I don't think Vince McMahon believes that Vince McMahon believes that Stephanie or Triple H, Shane, none of them can run this company the way that he wants it ran, so I'm going to run it. So Vince McMahon, I don't believe ever had a plan in place to succeed power. And with that being said, this is the trick bag that the WWE in. But he has to go. Because, and I hate the way that I'm about to frame it, but I'm going to frame it in this way. Because it's white billionaires. This is why I'm framing it this way. From a white billionaire standpoint, having sex with somebody in the office, getting them and giving them money, they don't, all right, whatever. Because Elon Musk got twins with an executive, and ain't nobody tripping about that shit. He got twins with a chick that's an executive in his company. Nobody's like, oh, he got to go. The issue here becomes he reportedly convinced a female wrestler to give him head and then got mad at her because she wouldn't do it again and do it again and do it again and then demoted her and fired her. Now, I know some wrestling fans are going to be like, well, in 2018, she was like, I'm going to tell, so you got to give me some money. So it's kind of like extortion. All right, if you want to frame it that way, frame it that way. All right, I won't even argue that. If you want to frame it that way, frame it that way. He shouldn't have never put himself in a position to do that in the first place.
There you go. There you go.
That's it. And you know what's crazy, Camp? Without doling out specific names, a name, I'm going to give you names that were released in 2005. Don Marie, Jackie Gator, Molly Holly, Christy Hemme. It was only 4 that was released in 2005, according to records. One of which, you could go look it up, sued Vince McMahon because he fired her because she was pregnant. So even if she wasn't the one that did it, that would mean possibly he shelled out probably about $20 million over 2005. You know how bad that is for him? From a billionaire standpoint, that is even bad, G. From a billionaire standpoint, I got all the money in the world. I can do what I want. Shelling out $20 million for 2005 is bad.
Yeah, man.
It is time for Vince McMahon to bounce. I don't know how the business looks and how people do their jobs as CEO. I can sit up there and say, hey, I think Stephanie McMahon would do a great job as CEO. I don't know what the fuck she do. but at the same time, nah, fam, this ain't even Me Too time for me. This is not it's Me Too. So no, Vince McMahon, from a business standpoint, may have shelled out $20 million to 2 women over 1 year. Also with that, now you get to the point where the focal point has been the women in your company and how they've been treated all these years. I'll even go further to say, damn, what you was doing in the 80s, G? Oh, there's a rape accusal. You was accused of rape in the 80s and nobody was paying attention to that shit. And then she came back out and was like, hey, man, I told y'all. Told y'all,
Yeah,
it
man.
is time for him to go. Now, how does that work? Considering that he owns the majority of the shares, I don't know how that works. I don't know how you get him out. He can't just say, here's my shares, I'll give it away.
Yeah.
No, you got to buy them shits. Stephanie ain't got the money to buy them shits.
No.
So, here's my guarantee, ladies and gentlemen. By 2024, an outside company would have bought the WWE. Stephanie McMahon will be appointed CEO.
Yeah.
Triple H will get creative control, but the McMahons by 2024 will no longer own the WWE.
Man. And you know what? This is what everybody wanted. Well, the majority, it looks and it sounds like this is what 51% or more of y'all wanted. And so now you got it, or you potentially will be getting it within the next 18 months. You know, it's you know, y'all can buy too much into the pipe bomb by CM Punk if you want in 2013, and that's fine. You're allowed to do that, but I do honestly think that if the WWE does get into a situation where it is not ran by or operated by Shane, Stephanie, Paul, aka Triple H, then we're in big trouble, especially if the alternative is it not being owned by somebody like The Rock or another wrestling family, because there is something to be said about the men and women that just grew up in the business, that just know the business, you know, or at least people that are very passionate about the business. If you guys all think back, you know, WCW doesn't exist anymore because WCW was taken over by people that did not know, understand, like, or were passionate about the business. So you don't want a situation where like, you know, the McMahon family doesn't own it, and then like, I don't know, the Wilhelms family owns it now, and the Wilhelms don't give a fuck about wrestling. They make post-it notes or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, yeah, if this is the move and we're trying to get McMahon's off of it, then I'm putting my banding off top to say like, well, then, hey, the Samoan dynasty need to own this.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. And I don't think people understand what you're talking about here, because you had mentioned WCW.
Yeah.
No, the Crockett Promotions owned that promotion.
Yeah.
And then they sold it to Ted Turner. Eventually saw a boom, but then they burst.
Yeah.
But within that burst, they were bought by AOL Time Warner.
Yeah.
And they didn't give a fuck about wrestling.
At all.
And then when shit started hit the fan, Brad Siegel was like, nah, we're not giving y'all a TV deal. Eric Bischoff and others was going to buy the company, and then they was out of TV, was without a TV deal, which ended the company basically. And it was sold, the videos was basically sold to the WCW by the WWF, and the intellectual property. Videos and intellectual property was sold to the WWE for $1.1 million. So basically pennies on the dollar, ladies and gentlemen. So imagine, because other companies are going to go through this as well, because they have gone through it. Imagine if an Amazon or Apple buys the WWE. You are either going to go in a way of Disney and ESPN, or you're going to go in the way of AOL, Time Warner, and WCW, which means years later, the company will fold. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think y'all understand how it's really WWE getting all of the money and everybody else getting crumbs.
Yeah.
That's why it goes back to what I said earlier. Like you gonna get what you wish for. I don't know if you want it though.
Yeah.
Because there definitely can be a time where there's no WWE. And if there's no WWE, only you will give a shit about AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, only you. Like, only you can prevent forest fires. Only you will give a damn about wrestling. Because what y'all don't understand is in the 70s and early 80s, nobody really gave a fuck about wrestling.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon said, hey, we gonna up the entertainment value in wrestling. And he did, and people cared again.
Yeah.
Within that, people was doing shit they ain't had no business doing. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the casual fan along with the wrestling fan. Vince McMahon brought in so many people with rock and wrestling who stayed until his whole entire time. You literally will need somebody like that. The best case scenario for the WWE is the UFC. And that's why it was also interesting to see Vince McMahon, Pat McAfee, Nick Khan, and Stephanie at the UFC event right after Money in the Bank was over with. It was interesting. To me, that was interesting because the UFC went through, I think, like 2 ownerships, and then I can't pronounce the last name. Fertitta, I believe, family ends up buying the UFC, and Dana White comes in with them. They sell to Rahm Emanuel's brother and their company, and they keep Dana White as basically the face and the CEO of the company. So he essentially runs it, but he ain't the owner. He ain't Vince McMahon. He's really the president and the face of the company. That's what Stephanie needs to be. Apple or Amazon, who's been in Disney, who's been interested in the WWE. They buy the company. Stephanie McMahon needs to be the face of the WWE. But do those companies care to have it like that? That's why I even said years ago the WWE needs to position themselves more like ESPN and treat themselves as not only just a separate entity among anything else, but wrestling in general. The Bump needs to talk about all wrestling. Like the Bump needs to talk about all wrestling and really shut up everybody. Like, damn, all right, cool. They really need to be the ESPN of this shit because staying so closed in is going to fuck them up in the long run. And I think between Vince McMahon and all his bullshit going on, really not having a succession plan. And matter of fact, and I know you haven't seen it, but I'll ask anyway. Have you seen the television show Succession on HBO?
No, I have not.
Literally watch that movie. I mean that TV show.
Okay.
I think it just got done with season 2 or 3. But watch that. This is literally the WWE or insert major company here. The old man don't want to give up power. The kids are fighting for position. They get jobs. They're doing this as a media company too.
I've heard about this.
It is literally what's going on right now. And just to the wrestling fan in general, I'm telling you, be careful what you wish for because you better hope that the WWE ends up like the UFC and not like the WCW. Because when the parent company buys them, you have to hope that that parent company who gives Vince McMahon about $4 billion to go away, you got to hope that they like wrestling like you do. Because if they don't, you talking shit now.
Man.
You will learn that while Vince McMahon needs to go, and while one man shouldn't carry all that power, that when that man go, just like your family went when Madea died, and how you mad because the cousins and the aunties and the uncles don't talk to each other no more.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this shit gonna be. WWE gonna break up like your family did when my dad died. If you a black person, you know that reference. Good luck, but he does need to go.
And you know what? Just to not even to piggyback off it, because you can't back off of that. That was great. You can't.
Yeah.
But I do want to offer just a sub note, if you will, because I know some of you are hearing this conversation, and the first thing some of you are thinking is, "See, this is why Tony Khan is going to win, and AEW is going to be in the great space." And again, I just stress to all of you, there's one thing to be a wrestling fan with a lot of money, and then there's another thing to be a guy that's revolutionized the business of wrestling. All right? It's one and two ain't the same. Listen, I think I have a pretty good ideology of wrestling, but I'm going to sit here right now in your face or in your ears and say, I don't have whatever that it is that Vince McMahon had when he created WrestleMania and was like, hey, yo, we all in, pun intended. And if this worked, we good forever, or at least for another 5 years. If this don't work, well then shit. I mean, territories will be back by next year.
Nigga, AWA would have been like, hey, we back.
Yeah, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like it all helps. And you know, yeah, being a fan of wrestling is a part of it. But in that pie, though, being a fan of wrestling, I'm gonna give it enough respect and say it's 15%. Mm-hmm. You know, the rest of it is your passion for the business and creating superstars, wanting to take it from one level to the next level, understanding how to pay out everybody and booking correctly. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes fandom gets in the way of booking. We're watching that happen in other organizations. So, you know, please don't think that Vince McMahon out and the McMahon family potentially being phased out of their company, that now the new wrestling fan with his organization is automatically the top spot and the win. Because no matter how you slice it, wrestling is $1 billion industry right now. And it's because of the top dogs, but everybody else ain't definitely making 100 million right now. So there's still a lot of growing to be done by organizations. We were happy that competition is back, but now that competition is back, they now got to push the envelope to show that, hey, we follow the Vince blueprint on screen, not off screen. You don't want to do the off screen stuff because that's crazy.
Yeah, so all I'm saying, man, is be careful what you wish for, G.
Yeah. No, facts. Yo.
I don't miss. Let's get on our old bag real quick before we move on.
For sure.
I don't miss that time in wrestling where it was dry as hell and we only had one company.
Man.
Even though it was the WWE and I love them, I ain't like that shit, because if you've listened to this pod long enough, you will know I was a bigger WCW fan than I ever was a WWE fan. Mm-hmm. I miss WCW now to this day. I'll go to the network and I'll watch WCW a lot. I'm watching Nitros now. And WCW Saturday night. I can't wait till I get to the part where they was lying talking about the fans voted and it's Ric Flair versus thing, like on Saturday. Like I can't wait to get to that, so I can tell y'all how much of a liar y'all was, WCW. But I am a WCW person. But I loved the time where it was two companies. They wasn't fighting against each other.
Right.
They wasn't on Monday night against each other, because that shit was a struggle. Yeah, I miss WWE. Well, WWF. I miss WWF and WCW, where you can watch Superstars in the morning and WCW Saturday night at 6:05 Eastern, 505 Central. I don't like this competition shit.
Yeah.
I want to see all this shit. When the WWE goes and says the shareholders and go to Vince McMahon and say, hey, you gotta sell your shit. And Elon Musk is going to buy, he's going to give you in cash right now $6 billion to go the fuck away. Y'all gonna be cheering like, hey, Vince is gone, yeah. And then about 5 years later, you ain't gonna get no wrestling. Because I'm telling you, if it comes to sports, and I'll say this now, end it. When it comes to sports or sports entertainment, you have to realize this, ladies and gentlemen. At one point, it was almost no NFL. At one point, it was almost no NBA. And that's closer to your age than you think.
Yeah, man.
Because the NBA barely got out of the 70s, G.
Yeah, that's true. Wow.
They barely got out of the 70s. At one point, people was talking about, do we need the NHL? These are the 4 biggest companies, Major League Baseball too. But they probably had the longest staying power, and they even had a strike. And people was like, oh, we ain't fucking with y'all. Those are the big 4. The WWE is nowhere near the big 4, and I really care about this shit.
Right.
So guess who can go? And a lot of people would not give a shit. The WWE.
Yeah, man.
And by meaning of that does not mean, oh man, let's go get AEW and Impact and boost them up. No, we don't care about them shits. Y'all go wrestle at the UIC Pavilion tomorrow because we don't care about them, so we don't care about y'all. Now, to the wrestling fan, that's great. But to the businessman, oh shit, it's gonna be a rough ass day.
Right. Yeah. Outside of the clearance sale on the belts, man, I'm not fucking with this. Because I do want to get some belts. Matter of fact, that's on my first Black Chamber. So I'm buying a belt within our 5-year run here. I got to buy a belt, man.
You got to buy authentic replica belt.
Yeah. Right. I can't be with the 8-year-old belt with the little foam joint. No.
Yeah, no, you can't be with that.
My waist is a 38. No.
Mine is almost that.
Hey, let's go.
I'm at a 41. I mean, a 40, excuse me. So,
you know what? Hey, that, with the flex material in the waist now, you might be 41.
That is true.
Though, but you're down, though.
True. I'm down, though. Getting down, though. First Black Chat, man. Make sure you rate, subscribe, download wherever you get your favorite podcast. Shouts out to the Barbershop Digital. Finn, we are 5 years old. We are Finn Ball. On the Finn, all of that shit. Now, it's Cap's favorite year. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, you know what? It was born in May. You know what I'm saying? Multiples of 5 is my number. 515.
Oh man, that 5 is a great number for you. Speaking of people leaving the WWE, it has been reported that Sasha Banks and Naomi has been removed from the WWE internal roster. So it might not necessarily reflect on the website yet, but it's somebody who takes care of websites and everything. They just ain't got the word to take them off of the website just yet, but they don't work for the company no more. That's pretty much what that means. But they just getting paid to stay where they at. Which is, I mean, it's disappointing how all of this has gone down and possibly has ended. I have said on this podcast that Sasha Banks is the greatest of all time. I've said on this podcast that Naomi is severely underused. At the same time, she's great for this company. They are 2 Black women of color. So you have that as well. And with them not being on the roster, the women of color on this roster is depleted. It's really like, Bianca Belair, and when they feel like bringing Alicia Fox back for some random ass shit. So we're very top heavy when it comes to women of color or Black women on this roster. All right. So, but if this is true, and in a couple of weeks, we're going to get the official word that Sasha Banks and Naomi are gone for the company. I have one question. I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
I'll start off with, as a fan, how do you feel about the way that this looks to end?
It looks really bad. And it looks so bad because you are letting go of a lot of history, a lot of fanfare, and two big pieces of a growing demo. I think that is the most important thing to look at here. Obviously, Sasha Banks and Naomi are not 100% of the women's division, but I will say that they're definitely both in the top 10 of most popular. And I say that with Naomi being as popular as she is, with the amount of TV time that she gets, with the amount of premium live events she's getting on, the way she gets booked, her fan base, whenever they hit the switch on the glow from her being a Funkadactyl and all of that, but ever since she been making people feel the glow, her popularity has not died down 1 ounce since that entire time. And she's taken hiatuses. And if that's how you say the word when it's plural, you know what I'm saying? For just family. She's been on reality shows. She's a star on social media just by her. And I'm not even saying that just as far as her content, even though she does crank out content, but the reaction that she gets from, Twitter and, just Instagram. And then you correlate that into the TV audience loves her both from E to Raw or SmackDown. It is wild that they would be wanting to remove somebody who is that popular, even when her appearances are spotty at best. Like, the only people that don't like Naomi are lame white boys who jack off because they're super virgins that have no chance of getting off on anything that's not Celine plastic or foam. That is it. So everybody else loves Naomi. So that's why. And then Sasha Banks, again, you're taking away your headliner of your of WrestleMania. You're taking away a WrestleMania headliner. To me, and I said this in the chat, and maybe you're gonna go into that. Sasha Banks must know where bodies are buried.
Man, you know what? I said this about Sasha Banks on this pod. I've said it a couple of times about Bianca Belair. And I even go deeper just in sports in general, because just to kind of like blend the two. Draymond Green on his podcast, the Draymond Green Show, talked about Kevin Durant asking for a trade.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, fans need to realize that, this is Draymond Green Inc. This is Kevin Durant Inc. They're all business people at the end of the day. I think Bianca Belair has taken that route. Like, it's not like wrestlers have not understand that they were business before. That's why when you look at pay-per-views and you see at the end of it, Hulk Rules, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Inc., Hulk are all owned by him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a turning point for Vince McMahon for IP and all of those things. When you look at wrestlers like Sting and Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, all of these others, they realize that they are business. They are who they are. They go, they command what they command and all of those things. I think Sasha Banks, probably more than, some of these other wrestlers in this group, in this era, has realized that they are a business and they need to be treated as such. And I think this is the route that she's taking, because she's really trying to take ownership of her. Of Sasha, Mercedes Varnado is trying to take ownership of her.
Mm-hmm.
And Sasha Banks will always be her, and she knows it. But people gonna love Mercedes just as much, if not more, than Sasha Banks. That's what she's banking on. It's always interesting with me when it comes to wrestling, if you are who you are outside of the brand. I believe that Sasha Banks is bigger outside than the brand. or can be potentially. And she's banking on herself. Naomi is the one that I'm concerned about, which I believe temporarily Naomi will no longer be with the WWE, but I believe that she would eventually find herself back in the WWE. WWE fired Eddie Guerrero, before he came back. And they fired other people when they come back. She is the one that I see that will be back within the company. Her family, her in-laws are in this company. She not gonna be going back to go dance, for the Miami Heat or some shit, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying that this is the only thing that she has lined up. I just believe that, as we've seen over the years, that when some people leave, they come back, and I believe that Naomi is one of those people, that will come back. I don't know about Sasha Banks though, and I believe. But I do believe that Sasha wants to go to Japan and wrestle. I do believe that you will see her in AEW, but I also believe that you're not going to see her full time ever in a wrestling ring again. And I also believe that this is Sasha Banks exercising power like that too. I'm not saying that this all derives from the issue, but if we ever see Sasha Banks back in the wrestling ring again, she's not doing 290 days.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. She ain't doing none of that shit at all, fam. You're not gonna see her every week on a wrestling program. You're gonna see her part-time as hell, because I think that she has other avenues that are lined up, especially. I don't know if anything more is gonna come out of the Star Wars shit, but I think that has helped her align with some other shit too. So that's gonna be interesting. What is even more interesting is the lack of color on these rosters now. Like you realize that two of the people that's leaving were so big that it made you forget that it was only like 3 of them. And 4 if you count Tamina as a person of color. All right, let's look at that roster. Matter of fact, they had put, like, when Liv Morgan won, they was like, who should be her next opponent? And it was all white women. So what are black women at? Now, this is going to be a running theme, just like white males 18 to 34, because that's about to come back. That's about to come back in a minute. It'd be funny if we make a shirt that says white men ages like 18 to 34 as a shirt, and then go to a pay-per-view event. Like, what do you mean by that? But anyway, we're gonna have 2 things here, right? Sasha Banks leaves and all that stuff. All right, cool. What happens if things don't go the way that she wants? You have wrestling, but again, she's not going to be wrestling all of those days, right? And we just talked about Naomi. To combine those two, I've never seen white men ages 18 to 34 care about black women the way that they care about Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. I say care. Because when you see Bianca Belair come out to that crowd, she's coming to a crowd that's majority white. And when you look at it, majority white males ages 18 to 34, and they're cheering. And they did the same thing for Naomi. And when you boo somebody in wrestling, 9 times out of 10, you care. So the same thing. I'm not like, Naomi is a little bit down on that. Not saying down in a bad way. It's just like, it's another tier. So they built that relationship with that audience, though. Because let's look at Lacey Evans. What did I say last week, Kemp? White men ages 18 to 34 do not want to hear about no story tale about this white woman fighting for the country and doing all of this shit. They booed her ass at Money in the Bank, and they was like, fuck it, we gonna turn your ass heel. And she basically said, y'all don't fuck with me, I don't fuck with y'all. Right. And she said that to who? White male ages 18 to 34. So I told y'all this last week. Shouts out to everybody who acknowledged that. Now, for a black woman, if Lacey Evans got to go through that, well, shit, guess what we got to go through? And this is not even the fetishized black woman as well, because Naomi could very well be fetishized by a white male. When she twerks and hits somebody with the ass, the white male could be like, oh, shit, look at that ass. I love her. Bow, 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 bow. Like, they could really get on your Deshaun Watson shit. When the masseuse don't want to finish it off for you, you finish it yourself. That could very well be the situation here, right? But where is that going to come from? Who's the black women that are coming down the pike that can be that? Is it Lash Legend? Is it some other black woman that they signed? I hate to say how I'm about to say it. Is it Nikita Lyons? Because they might look at her as more urban because of her ass. What I'm saying is that damn, it's fucked up to be a sister in the WWE right now, because it ain't a lot of y'all. And when you see all of these white women come in, and oh yeah, I guess you could count Bailey as a person of color too, because she's Hispanic. When you see all of these things and you don't see no color, it seems like the women's division is more like what the men's division used to be in the 80s. Because now you got Roman Reigns, who's a wrestler of color, who's dominating. You got Gunther, who is not a person of color, but he's German, so he's not American, as the Intercontinental Champion. You have Bobby Lashley, who should not have the United States Champion, but like Kemp said, being the U.S. Champion is like being the champion on Raw right now. And you know what? We'll take that. You got the Usos versus the Street Profits, who's going to happen again at SummerSlam. So that's where the breakup is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. But you see that, you look at that, and you say, damn, wow, these brothers is doing their thing. And the only time you can say that within the women's division is Bianca Belair, which is dope, but it's the only one. And that's what's wild about it. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Naomi is the special guest referee for the Street Profits versus the Usos. It wouldn't shock me or surprise me. It wouldn't shock me or surprise me if she's the special guest referee and she costs the Street Profits the championship, and then Angelo Dawkins, like one of them gets mad, and then next thing you know, a breakup happened. It wouldn't shock me or surprise me, ladies and gentlemen, because that's how the WWE roll. But it's just the lack of color with the women, G, is now a little bit scary when two of the three most dominant is now gone.
Yeah. And then you got Athena is gone. And then because she kind of counted. Nia Jax is gone.
Yep.
You know, damn, what was the other girl? I think there's one more.
It's more black women. It's more black women on AEW wrestling than it is the WWE. I gotta give you props on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the most popular is black.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, hey, that's what's scary to me, which leads me to question number 2. I answered in my way, but do you see any of those two women or both of them being in the WWE ring in the future? Think they'll come back?
You know what? With so much being said about the changing of the guard in wrestling, I think that is the big part for Sasha Banks. Part of me, just because of bloodline, Samoan dynasty, lineage, even if it is through marriage, I do think Naomi will be back. Sasha Banks, though, I think Sasha Banks is in the space where, hey, a lot of shit got to change because I don't necessarily need to be here. And obviously, all of us would want that level of leverage with our employers, right? And Sasha Banks has that. You know, Sasha Banks, she told you what time it was on the Broken Skull session with Steve Austin. She's like, look, there was a time I was just happy to be here. Those days are over now. and she was talking like that before she headlined WrestleMania and helped put over one of the new biggest stars in the company. So Sasha Banks needing a lot of make good, if you will. Or, you know, hey, man, she might be trying to get her LeBron or Kevin Durant package, you know, however you want to frame it. Naomi, though, different story. Naomi is still deeply tied into the just the WWE ecosystem, however you want to frame it. You know, her Her cousin is the longest reigning champion of the modern era, and he runs SmackDown as well as runs the company. He's the face of the company. Her husband is now a part of the longest reigning SmackDown champions, as well as the unified champion, unified tag team champion. So there is so much more reason for her to have a new role, take a new angle, have somebody really put their foot down as far as like her. I don't understand why her treatment is the way it is, especially that she's alluding to from her own social media accounts. But it does seem odd that even she's kind of on the outside looking in while she's watching other members of her family, even if it is through marriage, other members of her family are being treated in a different manner than she is. And that's also something very alarming that the entire organization needs to look at. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to be a Black woman wrestling, right? But then on that same other hand, when you're a Black woman that's a wrestler that's been successful, and then your husband and your cousin are obviously being treated one way, and you are now becoming vocal about being treated another way, it's just raising eyebrows. It's just raising eyebrows. So I think if nothing else, for the make good of just that, I think Naomi will be back a lot sooner than Sasha Banks. But Sasha Banks, I think, is very adamant about, a lot of other shit got to happen for me and to this company before you see me back. That's just my personal take on that. And you on mute. Shout Mook. What up, Mook?
My bad. I was on mute. So that gives me the next question. It seems like Sasha Banks is taking her power in her own hands as a wrestler, as a woman wrestler at that. What do you feel with what we see going on with the WWE as well? How does that look for the future of wrestling? Where even though the territories are done and have been done, it's still been very territorial for wrestlers too. So is it possible that with this one move, Sasha Banks has changed the course of wrestling history when it comes to their power in their own hands? Or do you have to be a special type of wrestler? Just case in point, everybody can't ask for a trade, but Kevin Durant can.
Yeah. See that. That's the thing. And you know what? You're raising a great topic here because, not too long ago, maybe about a year or two ago, we had a conversation about Black wrestlers and Black entitlement in wrestling.
Right.
Like, even from the fans aspect, but also from a wrestler standpoint, now, we live in an era where, I'm Black and I'm wrestle, I should get opportunity. And it's like, you still got to be super dope. You know what I'm saying? And I think, everybody, let me really detail this. 1% of the women in wrestling can do what Sasha Banks is doing.
Right.
1%. And even in the all-time sense, a lot of the women from all time can't do this. Listen, you may not want to hear it, but Lita and Trish couldn't do this.
No.
Medusa couldn't do this. Sensational Sherry couldn't do this. But even now, at the same time, moving forward, Liv Morgan can't do this.
Well, Medusa did do it by throwing in the women's championship in the garbage. I will say this, though.
Yeah.
WCW didn't have the infrastructure for women wrestlers for her to succeed.
There we go. So it's like, hey, cool stance, miss. Now what? because when she did that, it wouldn't know Mandalorian for her to go to. It wouldn't know Twitch for her to get her shit off, and or maybe even just build her own world of content. It was just like, oh, you're gonna do this or nothing. And you went to the competition and did it. Okay, cool. Good luck with that. Good luck. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's a handful, and there's a handful, and you know, obviously Sasha, Charlotte, Becky. I would even say Bianca, even though it's really soon. There's only a few in that space in our entire lifetime, as the women's division is still trying to grow into something.
Right.
So it's yeah, I don't recommend this for everybody. I don't recommend this for over half the men's roster either.
Hell no.
A lot of y'all are not Sasha Banks, bro, or sis. You know, so I understand what this really is.
Or
Naomi
cisgender.
Oh,
or cisgender, you know.
Right. There you go. A lot like Naomi standing next to Sasha Banks helps her out, but also Naomi standing next to Jay and Roman and Jimmy makes it, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at the kind of position you need to be in for this to even be a story, because y'all didn't feel nothing about Mike and Maria Kanellis, and they had a lot of the same gripes.
Damn. Hey, you won on that one. Shit, let's move on. Shouts out to Mike and Maria too. Oh man, the Street Profits, and more importantly, Angelo Dawkins heard what y'all been saying. All right, Angelo Dawkins was on After the Bell with Corey Graves, and there was a clip that came out, you know, about how Angelo Dawkins said that he been hearing y'all when it comes to this whole Street Profits breakup and everything. And he had to show y'all what it was to let y'all know, hey, I'm playing my role, but I need y'all to understand and know what it is. So now that let me say this first. It's interesting to hear wrestlers say, I hear y'all, and I hear the shit that y'all was talking, and I'm here to tell y'all it was cap. Because, you know, wrestling for so long, you have to stay in character and all of that. And with some of these WWE podcasts and all of that, you depending on the podcast and what's going on, you hear wrestlers talk about some of the things that we may talk about on Twitter in the wrestling community. Matter of fact, I'll read what he said. He said, if I said I didn't hear the talk on the internet, like especially about me and stuff like that, like obviously I see it all the time with Tez. Tez is second world. Like that dude's a freak of nature. That's my brother. I know he's good. I know he's talented. He's destined to become a world champion. But then on the other hand, I saw people talking about me like I'm like a scrub or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Hold up. I'm like, oh, they must not know about me. Okay, cool. And it was kind of like it took me aback when I first started in a way. When he first started. And if you guys don't remember, or if you wasn't watching NXT like I was watching NXT, you know, Angelo Dawkins was around here jobbing the folks in the headband. And it took him a while to find his way. Sort of like Jason Jordan and Angelo Dawkins, it seemed like it was the same person. So to speak, where they all had to find their way in. Jason Jordan found Chad Gable, and then Angelo Dawkins found Kenneth Crawford, who becomes Montez Ford. And as you see, for both, the rest is history, because they both end up becoming NXT World Tag Team Champions. They end up going to the main roster. The Jason Jordan things end prematurely because of his neck. And shouts out, he got a nice chick pregnant too, I must say. Jason Jordan has, but you have that one, and then you have the Street Profits, who, you know, are continuing now. It's reported that a breakup might happen soon. But it was good to see and hear Angelo Dawkins say that when it comes to that. So I have a different question that I'll never really hear. You hear people say who's going to be Marty Jannetty compared to who's going to be Shawn Michaels and all of that stuff. And the last time we kind of saw something like this was Otis and Tucker, but we both said that if Tucker leaves Otis, then he's gonna get Future endeavored like quick. And it wasn't necessarily as quick, but he showed up on like Raw with like no facial hair and some shit and got his ass whooped during the pandemic and stuff. So different question here. Not a who's Marty Jannetty compared to Shawn Michaels. It's more of a why do you believe that the second fiddle wrestler failed more often than not? Because I really can't think of a lot of tag teams where they break up and both wrestlers succeed. Shit, even when the Steiner brothers broke up, we was like, damn, what's gonna happen to Rick? We never want to see the World Warriors break up because it's like, yo, what's gonna happen to Animal? Like, you know, it's always the most popular one succeeds, but I never really seen it in the case where both tag team wrestlers succeeded. You saw both tag team wrestlers at a major pay-per-view wrestling against each other, and the storyline continues. And I'm talking about people who came into the building together, not, oh man, like Edge and Chris Jericho, they tag up and then they wrestle each other at WrestleMania. Like, why do you believe that that's the case?
Well, half of it is the case is because of the way we follow and detail storyline and understand positioning. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the seller is just better than the hot tag guy. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you think back to the Rockers, right? Shawn Michaels was the seller.
Yeah.
But Marty Jannetty was the hot tag guy. Bret Hart, Howard Foundation. Bret Hart seller, Anvil's the hot tag guy. And, you know, they're just following suit. Because in your lifetime, you don't just see somebody like Angelo Dawkins getting their ass beat. You just don't see it. So, you know, I think, and you know, and obviously, you know, I'm always partial to this conversation because of what I had to say about Angelo Dawkins on Clubhouse. But I think what Angelo Dawkins is trying to prove here is like, yo, man, you know, I've sold my ass off too in this team. Like, we're more equal than you think. It's just that his athleticism in Montez Ford's is just at a higher ability than not only me, but everybody. Man. Like, he's just more exciting to see. But if you threw Angelo Dawkins either with somebody or you get him a chance to stand alone, he's going to be something special. Like, Angelo Dawkins is not Stevie Ray. He's literally more Booker T than he's Stevie Ray. But how does Booker T look like in a tag team with Shawn Michaels? That's what this is to me. But circling back to your question, like, yo, there's the guy that is the seller that can get you emotionally invested into a match, whether he's on offense or defense, whether he's taking the pummeling or he's getting the finisher off. And then you got the hot tag guy. And the hot tag guy is, you know, the enforcer, the guy who balances out the team as far as strength, power, or just the irresistible force or the immovable object. You know what I mean? He's that other guy, you know, that's the other half of the work. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, your seller is your worker. That is the premier worker. But, you know, the cleanup guy, the hot tag guy is the one that shifts the momentum of a match. And, you know.
So in a sense, the Shawn Michaels is the storyteller. And when he becomes a single, the storyteller gets all the rub because that storyteller ends up becoming the better wrestler in the eyes of many.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, shoot, you think about it. Shawn Michaels went solo much like Bret Hart went solo, but I use Shawn Michaels as a better example of what I'm about to say. He had less matches, but he sold the shit out of all of them.
Because when you look at it, like I searched the best tag team breakups. And the Sportster has Edge and Christian number 1. And I think that's a lie.
Wow.
The best tag team breakup is the Rockers. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Now the flip to that is who this may be the most successful in regards to tag teams breaking up and what happened to both wrestlers. Because, you know, the most success that Marty Jannetty got outside of that is becoming an Intercontinental Champion and becoming a tag team champion, because people forget that the Rockers did not win the tag titles. They were slated to win it, but some shit happened and they had to re-record and all of that stuff, and boom. But let me just go through this list real quick. Edge and Christian is number 1 according to them, with the Rockers number 2. Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio number 3. Beer Money is number 4.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. I don't count the Mega Powers as a tag team, so as a real tag team. So you got that as number 5. The Steiner Brothers is number 6. Kevin Steen and El Generico, which I believe that they're going. I thought they would be fighting the Usos for the tag team championship at SummerSlam. So maybe they're saving that for WrestleMania. You got DIY that's on this list. X-Pac and Kane, which I don't count because they got put together. And Team 3D / the Dudley Boys. And I'm looking at this. Edge and Christian was both successful. They both became world champions. The Rockers, Marty Jannetty reportedly admitted he killed somebody on Facebook.
Man,
you know, Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio was a put together tag team, so I don't count that. Beer Money was a put together tag team, but I like how that breakup happened. Basically, let me even go to best tag teams of all time, because I think that's even an even better look at it, because you're gonna see more, of course. All right, so as a matter of fact, let's go. Let's just even go to Sports Illustrated's top 50 tag teams of all time. Right? Legion of Doom, War Warriors. Animal had a title, a run, a solo run after Hawk and things happened with that. Edge and Christian, you got that. We talked about that. The Hart Foundation. We got that. And you know, Jim Anvil, he did not win anything like that. Oh, the Rock and Roll Express. What was that? Ricky Morton had a nice tag team, nice world title match against. I truly believe that probably Ricky would have been a great solo guy.
Yeah, hey,
just didn't happen.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Their breakup in WCW totally confused me, and I was like, oh man, damn, what's gonna happen? Ricky and Robert are done. I'm like, damn. Yeah, I felt like, well, unless, I mean, obviously this is my time, so I'm still a kid. I was like, man, they've been wrestling together too long to do this, ain't they?
Yeah. Like, I'm looking at all of these tag teams, and I don't see a tag team outside of a real tag team to me, outside of Edge and Christian, where you saw solo success with both wrestlers.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's not common. It's not common, but you know.
Oh, I even give you a better question. I know you don't really fuck with this tag team real quick. But like, if the Young Bucks would have been like, we're gonna go solo, which one of them or both are both of them winning a world championship?
Future endeavored. You literally, hey, now look. Now look. You want to talk about a tag team that need each other? It's the fucking Young Bucks. There ain't an individual star that's higher than the other. It just is not. Fast forward into Undisputed Era. When there was O'Reilly and Fish, you could tell, nah, O'Reilly's the guy.
Right.
Even Strong and O'Reilly, pretty evenly matched. But again, your guy that is, they both had the potential to be the seller or the hot tag guy, and then just the animation of O'Reilly is just different. The Young Bucks, literally, you don't even need to tell them apart. Like I don't know which one is which, and they don't, and they're not, you know what I'm saying? But I don't need to distinguish them two because I would never want to see the other one in a singles match. Like I just don't want to see it. Not even to get jobbed. I mean, you think about it like this. The Hardy Boys were in a Young Buck space for a minute. And then they found Michael Hayes and put on some Jinko jeans, and all of a sudden the game changed. You know what I'm saying? and it was clear. And you know what? And we thought it was really clear. Jeff Hardy is just definitely going to be leaps and bounds greater than Matt. But what did Matt fucking do?
So yeah, we could put the Hardy Boys on this list. So I'm sorry about that. My bad, because both of them end up winning world champions in companies. Matt Hardy was the Impact World Champion. Jeff Hardy was a WWE World Champion. So that would be another one on that list too. But man, that is so. I guess my question is: do you believe that if you were to put the Street Profits in the Rockers lane or Edge and Christian Hardy Boys name, where both tag wrestlers over there end up winning world championships, whether it was a WWE, whether it was Impact or whatever, they became world champions. Marty Jannetty, and Shawn Michaels. If you would have moved the Street Profits on either side, where do you see the Street Profits breaking up as a tag team? Are they more like Shawn and Marty, or are they more like Jeff, Matt, Edge, Christian?
Definitely in the Jeff and Matt, Edge and Christian. And I say that solely because I think Angelo Dawkins is better than Christian. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so he's definitely better than Marty Jannetty. Hey, look, and I think that he would prove himself at a Matt Hardy level. Now, I know everybody doesn't do this, but I distinguished the tier system that is the WWE Championship versus the Universal Championship.
Right.
And I do think that Angelo Dawkins being a Universal Champion is not the wildest thing you've ever heard of in wrestling. Now, hey, and the thing is, and under Vince's guard, Montez Ford is the WWE Champion, but Angelo Dawkins could be the Universal Champion.
So with that being said, I agree with you. And not only do I agree with you, I think Angelo Dawkins agrees with you as well, and shouts out to Harper College.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to Harper College on that. All right, man. So instead of doing the guarantees and everything of what's going to happen as SummerSlam shapes up and everything, so we got Roman and Brock Lesnar fighting for the 7th time.
Yeah, man.
As I told y'all on this show,
yeah,
I was confused about why this shit was happening. But then I looked it up, and they're 3-3. They're 3-3, and this is the best. This was the best out of 7. We never knew was happening, but they're marketing this as the last time these two ever fight. So we'll see who will break the tie. Will it be Roman Reigns or will it be Brock Lesnar? We'll talk about that as we get close. You got Happy Corbin squaring up against Pat McAfee. The Street Profits versus the Usos with a special guest referee. And Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey in a rematch. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Now, with that out the way, guarantees. We've said a lot of guarantees on the show. Some have happened, some that have not happened, some still has potential. So for the 5th year anniversary of First Black Champ, giving guarantees. What is a guarantee that you hoped would happen and didn't? What's a guarantee that you glad didn't happen? And what was your worst guarantee?
Shit. The guarantee off top that I wish would have happened was what I said about Otis. Because after
remind us what that was.
I said something to the effect of Otis being the next superstar, the next unlikely superstar that nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
And I said that when he was in a program with Mandy Rose, who shit at this point, he probably was getting her over more than she was getting him, for one reason or another. And I made that prediction about him. I was like, yo, I don't know what it is, but this Otis Mandy story is like the hottest thing in the company. And then I think a month or two later, he won Money in the Bank.
He did, yeah.
So I was like, yo, see, I told y'all, fucking Otis. And I just knew something was going to happen with that. I kind of feel like it's not my fault, though, because never in the history of Money in the Bank has somebody had a match for it and lost it, and then the other dude cashed in to only be like a weak champ, like a 48-hour champion.
Yeah.
I would have rather seen Bobby Lashley slaughter Otis than have the Miz do it, but got to sell tickets, right? Because again, Otis' character really wasn't developed for the story that they had him on, but they George Bush the button. What was I supposed to do?
I still say Otis should be this generation's Vader.
Man,
we're
still like, and they had him on course, and now they've moved him back off of that. I don't get it.
Yeah, I still say that Otis needs to be this generation's Vader. We need a Vader.
Hell yeah.
We need somebody. We need a big man, an agile big man that we scared of.
Hell yeah.
Because as I said on this podcast before, I was legit scared of Vader. Legit scared. Like,
yeah, no, fact.
If I saw Vader in the street at my age when he was popping, I probably ran. Like, nah, I ain't messing with Buddy ass. Buddy ass crazy.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Along those lines, like one of those is, damn, I wish that I said it earlier. I wish that the New Day would have broke up properly as a faction. I think that if that would have happened, Big E would be bigger than he is. I understand, wanting to change the narrative and all of that stuff. I get that. But it's also something to me seeing the homies go at it from time to time. Yeah. Like, I think that I do think WCW missed the boat by the way that they did Lex Luger and Sting. Like, it wasn't really no emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
Like it could have, even though Lex Luger fucked up Sting's knee, clipped him, and he lost the United States Championship. Like, I mean, even though they wasn't a true tag team, they was put together, Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man meant something, A lot of times when you have items like that, depending on who it is, it actually means something. And I think especially like seeing two black wrestlers wrestle at the top, I think that's what that would have been too. Because I don't think that if that would have happened the way that I wanted it to happen, that wouldn't have been no middle of the card rivalry. Like, it would have been so much emotion attached to Big E versus Kofi Kingston with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston's on his side. Like, it would have been so much emotional attached to that where it'd been like, yo, this is fire. This is heat. We got to have this at the top of the card.
Yeah.
And I think it would have propelled Big E to bigger, but that didn't happen. So I wish that would have happened. Now, a guarantee that I'm glad that didn't happen. Anytime we said a black wrestler was going to lose the belt and they won it.
Hey, you know what? I'm stealing your answer. I'm stealing your answer.
Man,
yeah. Hell yeah.
When Kofi Kingston won the belt, every week we was like, oh, he's going to lose the belt. He's going to lose the belt.
He was like, it was cool. We had a good moment.
Cool. He's going up against Daniel Bryan. Oh, shit, he's going to lose the belt. Shit. To the point where the only time we said that after that was, all right, man, he losing to Brock Lesnar. Like, this shit's not gonna. We didn't expect it to lose the way that it happened. But then in hindsight, we was like, we let y'all know that Brock Lesnar didn't lose to black people. So it's just like, man. Hey, So,
right. And sure enough, that is how Kofi's title reign ended.
Yeah, so
by losing to the guy that never loses to black people.
Yeah, so anytime we picked the black person to lose is the ones we were. I am glad, and Camp are glad that didn't happen.
Absolutely.
All right, so we gave one that we wish would have happened. The ones we wish didn't happen. What was your favorite guarantee?
Damn. See, this is kind of difficult because I got a few. Because there was one point in time before they hit the 434, before they had I think it was right around the time they had the Usos run, where I was like, yo, the New Day is the best representation of black wrestlers you're gonna get right now, and we need to embrace them and celebrate them. And even Jonathan Hood was like, but they dance and throw pancakes. like, and I was like, you're right. I had nothing for that. I said a lot of very positive and favorable things about Mandy Rose, and she did everything I said she was going to do in NXT.
Yeah.
I was a few years ahead on that. But she just never did it for SmackDown. She did everything I said she was going to do for NXT. And I'm going to give just one more. I would have to say, what was the question again? I'm sorry, as I'm trying to think.
Your favorite guarantee.
My favorite guarantee.
Whether it came true or not.
Yeah, I was just about to say this. You know what, man? My favorite guarantees for me, honestly, are the ones that make you contemplate wanting to continue the show. Because I've had some doozies, especially the MAGA guarantees from a few weeks ago. Like those moments, I've had three or four of them. I think one came earlier in this year around the Royal Rumble. I think it might have been against not Seth Rollins. I forget them now. But there's been a couple times where I've given some detailed guarantees to the point that Bang is just literally just quiet and says, man, I hope that shit don't happen. Man. That's when I know I got a good ass guarantee. Because he's done some guarantees that are just like the Rose McMahon family angle that he wrote. He still won't admit it to this day in 5 years. So he wrote that shit. That had me like, yo, this nigga work here and he's not communicating this to me.
And for those who never heard that, I said that when Cody Rhodes married Brandy Rhodes, that he was going to be eased up out of the company. And like after that, he got married. He was gone for 2 weeks. Shit didn't pop off like that. He became Stardust, and then he was out the company.
Yeah.
So thank me for AEW, ladies and gentlemen. Don't thank Jay White. Thank Bang for AEW.
Damn right. You damn right. So yeah. So anytime I give a guarantee with so much detail and layer that Bang just wants to move on, those are my favorites.
Yeah, because that Lacey Evans joint, bruh. You know what's funny is I thought about you yesterday because I went to go get some gas, and it's a dude in Plainfield, Joliet, Sherwood, that drives a pickup truck, a loud pickup truck with two flags, one of which is the American flag, and one is a Trump one, he did flag, and them bitches big as hell. And I've seen him driving around, but this time I was getting gas, and he parked next to me, and I was like, oh shit. Oh, damn. Let me get this gas, get the fuck up out of here. But it was Lacey Evans was also in my head too. Like, he probably don't give a fuck about Lacey Evans, man, because white men ages 18 and 34 don't give a fuck about white women. who fought for us. They care about white men who fought for us.
Man.
My favorite guarantee is, and one that I still hope that happens. So combining those two, even though I answered it already, is Bianca Belair becoming this generation's Pam Grier. Because I see it. I don't see Bianca Belair in the WWE. It's 2022. I don't see her in the WWE in 2027. I'm sorry. I don't see it. And it actually goes into, I don't see a lot of women in the WWE being Natty. Not taking anything away from Natty. I'm not. But she's been here the longest, G.
Yeah.
I don't see that, especially when it comes to people of color. Like, yo, I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna get this money. I'm gonna raise my profile. They're not necessarily thinking that when they get in, but then when you start getting around Megan Thee Stallion and Rihanna is sponsoring you with Fenty and WWE, and Fenty's gonna work on something for Bianca and all that stuff. That just tells me how big she is outside of the company.
Yeah.
It's all she needs is one script, and I'm telling you, I believe that Bianca Belair is going to be the Pam Grier of this generation. And whether it is through WWE films or Will Packer or Spike Lee or whoever, she's going to be in a film and she's going to become the Pam Grier of our generation. I stand on that. And I don't think by 2027, Bianca Belair is going to be in the WWE.
Dang. Hey, listen. Star power. She's following another blueprint, pun intended.
So that's it. That's all. And before we close out this 5th anniversary episode, I want to give a shout out to the man who really got us through the first year of the show, because he got his ass kicked on SmackDown this weekend. Jinder Mahal.
Yeah,
if you listen to them first episodes, when Jinder Mahal won the WWE Championship for Randy Orton, I was upset.
Yeah, man.
Now that was a guarantee that I threw out there every week until that happened. He's losing the title. He didn't. So I want to give a special shout out to Jinder Mahal, because the first year, first black champ, it was how y'all give this jobber the world championship. This is like Barry Horowitz winning the world championship. The fuck is wrong with y'all? And I know as a performer, y'all might think that's bad, but it took me 5 years to realize, hey man, Jinder Mahal did his motherfucking job if he had me upset about him winning the championship.
Oh yeah. Hey.
So shouts out to Jinder Mahal, G.
And that was a take I used. I was like, look, the Maharaja shit working. You mad.
Yeah.
It's like, you mad as hell. You want this nigga to lose.
Yeah. So shouts out to you, Jinder Mahal, because
man.
You was the heel for the first year of First Black Champ. So
yeah, man. Absolutely.
Man, great episode, man. Thank you for everybody who watched on the feeds and everything. Make sure y'all listen to it on Barbershop Digital. Make sure y'all rate, like, subscribe, download. And when you do rate, man, throw a comment out there, man. It's been 5 years between independently doing it and through Barbershop Digital. Shout out to Scott, Flows, Pierce, and the gang for being with us for these last couple. All we want to do is continue into 5 and to going into year 6 to giving y'all quality content, and that's what we're gonna strive to do. So I pass it over to my man Kemp.
Yeah, man. Enough. It can't be said enough times. So thank you all for tuning in to this show. Thank you, whether you came in on day 1 or if you came in on year 3. We greatly appreciate you. Even if this is your first time hearing us, thank you as well. Man, likes, comments, shares, conversation, tags, rumor, innuendo shares, just theory, hypothesis, or just letting us know that you don't fucking like somebody, man. We enjoy it. We appreciate it. We thank you for giving us your time, your attention, your energy, and information. Obviously, we could do the show without all of you, but you make it that much greater to do it every single week for 5 years. All right. And understand, if you ever want to talk about wrestling in an unconventional way, you do so by checking out the First Black Champ podcast. Camp, bang, we are out. Vibes up, bitch.